You are going to help me, young man. I know you work here. I swear, some people wake up just looking for a fight. Or maybe they just forget their glasses. Either way, this particular Sunday, I met one of them. It was barely noon, and I was already deep in the dairy aisle of the grocery store next door, loading up a cart with sodas for my own crew. Sundays are usually chaotic, so I'd volunteered to pull the dreaded manager double, giving my team a much-needed break. It's a nice perk of being the store manager at the cell phone joint right next door. I like to think I'm a good boss. I looked up from the shelf to see a guy who looked like he'd just finished an argument with a particularly stubborn toaster. His face was a ruddy red, his lips a thin, angry line, and his finger was jabbing ominously close to my chest. He was maybe late 60s, wearing a slightly too small polo shirt that barely contained his gut. "Actually, sir," I started, trying for my most patient customer service smile, the one I save for elderly folks who can't figure out their new flip phones. "I don't work here. I'm just picking up some things for my store." I even gestured vaguely in the direction of our glowing blue sign, visible through the plate glass. He didn't even blink. "Nonsense. I saw you stocking shelves just now. You're trying to shirk your duties, aren't you? Where's the organic kale?" He actually reached out and poked my arm, not a gentle tap, but a firm, insistent poke. "Okay, deep breaths, Bryson. He's just confused. Sir, with all due respect, I'm the manager of the cell phone store next door. We sell phones, plans, accessories, not kale. Definitely not organic kale." I tried to gently disengage my arm, but he was surprisingly strong. "Don't lie to me," he spat, his voice rising, drawing a few curious glances from other shoppers. "I want to know where the goddamn organic kale is, and you're going to take me there right now." He grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly firm, and tried to pull me toward the produce section. My patience, already thin from a long week and the prospect of an even longer Sunday, evaporated. I pulled my arm away with a sharp tug, a little more forceful than I intended. "Sir, I do not work here." "You need to let go of me." He glared, pure indignation flashing in his eyes, but he finally dropped my arm. "Fine, be that way. I'll report you for insubordination and neglect of duty." He huffed, clearly expecting me to cower. I just shook my head, deciding the best course of action was to simply walk away. I grabbed my cart, abandoning the last few sodas, and headed for the self-checkout, figuring he'd find someone else to bother. I was wrong. As I scanned my items, trying to put the bizarre encounter behind me, I could feel a hot stare on the back of my neck. I glanced over, and there he was, standing 2 feet behind me, arms crossed, practically vibrating with rage. He looked like a ticking time bomb. My heart rate kicked up a notch. This wasn't just a confused old man anymore, this was something else entirely. I finished checking out, bagged my items as fast as humanly possible, and practically power-walked out of the grocery store. I made a beeline for the cell phone store, fumbling for my keys, just wanting to be inside, behind my counter, safe. I could feel his heavy footsteps right behind me, hear his indignant grumbling. He was actually following me. This was absurd. I barely got the door open before he was right there, practically breathing down my neck. I rushed inside, clicked the employees only sign to on, and quickly ducked behind the counter. "I need to speak to your manager," he boomed, barging in and practically kicking over our display of Bluetooth headphones. I took a deep breath, clocked myself in, and walked back out from behind the counter. The overhead lights caught my embroidered name tag, Bryson, store manager. The old man froze mid-stride, his jaw dropping. The righteous fury on his face slowly contorted into a look of absolute disbelieving shock, then pure, incandescent rage. His eyes narrowed, and a vein in his forehead began to throb. "You," he hissed, pointing an accusatory finger. You're the manager here?" "That's right, sir," I said, my voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "How can I help you now?" He sputtered, a string of incoherent noises escaping his lips. He looked around the store like he expected an escape route to appear. "This is outrageous. You lied to me. You disrespected me. I demand to speak to your district manager." And another store manager. "This is an insult!" He was yelling, his voice echoing in the small, usually quiet store. Then, with a furious roar, he swept his arm across our main accessory display, sending cases, chargers, and screen protectors clattering to the floor. "Whoa, hey," I yelled, stepping forward. "That's enough, sir. You can't do that." He just snarled, his eyes wild. "I'll do what I want. I'll destroy this entire place. You'll regret lying to me." He actually took a step towards another display, his hands balled into fists. That was it. My professional calm snapped. "No, you won't," I said, pulling out my phone. "Get out of my store or I'm calling security." "You wouldn't dare," he challenged, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "I already had my finger on the button. I promise you I absolutely will." Sure enough, a few minutes later, the mall security guards, who knew me by name, were gently but firmly escorting a red-faced, still fuming old man out of my store. He was muttering threats about lawsuits and how he'd never shop here again, which honestly was a relief. I spent the next half hour picking up scattered merchandise and trying to piece back together the shattered remains of my Sunday peace. My employees arrived later, looking rested and ready, totally oblivious to the storm that had just passed. I just smiled, said it was a quiet morning, and told them to get ready for the afternoon rush. Sometimes being the boss means dealing with the unexpected, and sometimes the unexpected comes in the form of a belligerent old man who desperately wants to buy organic kale from a cell phone store, and then throws a fit when you refuse. All I could do was laugh, a little hysterically, while I cleaned up the mess. It was just another day, I guess. Another ridiculous, unforgettable day.
You've survived 2 Reddit roller coasters. Might as well subscribe before the third wrecks you emotionally.
The sharp, sudden tug on my neck wasn't just a physical shock, it ripped through the calm I'd been trying to hold on to. 1 second, I was stepping out of the Costco restroom, wiping my hands. The next, this woman, all aggressive posture and designer handbag, had snatched the lanyard from around my neck. It was my office lanyard, the one from my part-time gig at Office Depot, not Costco. But to her, it was a bullseye. "Finally!" she shrieked, her voice echoing a little too loudly in the busy aisle, making heads turn. "I knew you worked here!" "Now, are you going to help me find those organic, gluten-free, fair-trade quinoa puffs, or do I need to speak to your manager about your pathetic customer service?" My name's Emily, and believe me, I'm no stranger to entitled people. I mean, I practically have a PhD in them from all the stories I've shared on Reddit. But this felt different, more violating. Just minutes before, my Saturday at Costco had been perfectly normal. My husband John and I were doing our usual bulk shop, filling our cart with everything from paper towels to giant bags of chips. It was a mundane, even pleasant routine. I'd worked a short shift at Office Depot that morning, and in my rush to get to Costco with John, I'd completely forgotten I was still wearing my company lanyard. It was just an automatic reflex to take it off and toss it in my purse, but it hadn't happened. Honestly, I hadn't even registered it was still around my neck until that woman, let's call her Karen, violently pointed it out. I'd left John with our overflowing cart while I popped to the ladies' room. When I came out, he was standing there looking uncomfortable, practically doing a jig of quiet distress. He was trying to politely deflect some woman who was clearly not having it. That woman, of course, was Karen. She was probably in her mid-50s, draped in what looked like head-to-toe luxury brands, but with a face contorted in pure, unadulterated fury. She had that distinct air of someone who expected the world to bend to her every whim. As I approached, Karen's eyes, already narrowed at John, suddenly widened and locked onto me, specifically onto the bright blue lanyard dangling from my neck. "Aha!" she practically crowed, pivoting from John to me with alarming speed. "There she is. You, Missy. Don't think you can hide from your responsibilities." Before I could even process what was happening, she lunged. The force of her grab yanked my head back, the plastic chain digging into my skin. It happened so fast I could only gasp. "Ma'am, I don't work here," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper, the words catching in my throat. My heart was pounding, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. "This is just my lanyard from my other job." I'm a customer, just like you. I gestured vaguely to my casual jeans and sweater, clearly not a Costco uniform. But Karen wasn't listening. Her grip on my lanyard tightened, pulling me slightly closer. Don't you dare lie to me, you little insolent minion. I saw your colleague there. She waved dismissively at John, and he clearly works here too. Now, you will take me to the organic quinoa puffs, now. I just froze. I mean, what do you even do when someone physically assaults you over a misunderstanding this absurd? My mind raced. Is she going to hit me? What if she pulls harder? I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, making my hands shake. My usual Reddit story composure was gone, replaced by a cold knot of fear in my stomach. John, bless his protective heart, finally sprang into action. He gently, but firmly, placed a hand on Karen's arm, trying to get her to release me. Ma'am, please. My wife doesn't work at Costco. That's her lanyard from her office supply store job. It's not a Costco uniform, see? He pointed to the Office Depot logo on my ID card. Karen snatched her arm away as if burned. Don't you touch me, and don't you lie to me. I know a Costco employee when I see one, and she's wearing a name tag. You both are just lazy and trying to avoid helping a paying customer. Her voice escalated, shrill and piercing. Now more people were openly staring. I felt a flush of shame, even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. We are customers, John insisted, his voice rising a little now too, a clear edge of frustration creeping in. Leave my wife alone or I'm calling security. Oh, you think I'm scared of security? Karen scoffed, puffing out her chest. Go right ahead, they'll see what a terrible employee she is. John, without another word, pulled out his phone and dialed. As he spoke quietly into it, Karen just kept yelling at me, occasionally trying to yank my lanyard again, though I instinctively recoiled each time. I could feel tears pricking at my eyes, a mix of humiliation and pure terror. Within minutes, 2 Costco employees, 1 manager, 1 security guard arrived. John quickly explained the situation, pointing to my lanyard and reiterating that I was a customer. The manager, a kind-looking woman, immediately stepped between us. Ma'am, she addressed Karen calmly, this woman does not work for Costco. Her lanyard clearly states another company. We've verified with our team. She's not an employee. But Karen was beyond reasoning. She's lying. They're all lying. This is a conspiracy. She needs to be fired. I demand she helps me or I'm calling corporate and I'll have your job too. She was practically foaming at the mouth, her designer bag swinging wildly as she gesticulated. The situation was spiraling. It wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. It was harassment, plain and simple. I could feel myself shaking, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My chest felt tight, like an invisible hand was squeezing it. All right, ma'am, the security guard said, his voice firm and no nonsense. If you don't calm down and stop harassing these customers, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And if you refuse, we'll call the police. Call them, Karen roared, practically daring him. They'll see that I'm right. They'll arrest her for insubordination. And call them they did? The arrival of the police officers brought a strange sense of surreal calm to the chaos. Karen, surprisingly quieted down a fraction, but still insisted to the officers that I was a rogue employee refusing service. John and the Costco staff gave their accounts, all corroborating that I was just a shopper. The officers quickly pieced it together. They looked at my lanyard, then at my bewildered face, then at Karen's furious, unyielding one. Ma'am? One of the officers finally told Karen, his voice flat. You're being charged with harassment and assault. You're coming with us. Karen's face, for the first time, crumpled in genuine shock. What? I didn't do anything. She's the one who... But her protests were cut short as they gently but firmly cuffed her. As they led her away, she shot me one last venomous glare, promising lawsuits and retribution. As soon as she was out of sight, my legs gave out. John caught me before I hit the floor, guiding me to a nearby bench. The tears I'd been holding back finally streamed down my face. My whole body was trembling uncontrollably. The manager offered water, asked if I was okay. I just kept shaking my head, unable to speak. The fear, the anger, the sheer absurdity of it all, it hit me like a physical blow. John ended up taking me to the emergency room. My chest felt tight, my breathing erratic. The doctors called it an acute anxiety attack. the kind brought on by extreme stress. They gave me some medication, but the real healing would take time. The police later confirmed Karen was charged, and I was eligible for victims' compensation, which I accepted. For a whole year, I couldn't set foot in a Costco. The thought alone would trigger a wave of nausea and panic. Every time I saw someone wearing a lanyard, even a perfectly innocent one, my heart would clench. It's hard to explain how something so silly, so seemingly minor, can leave such a deep mark. That feeling of being violated, physically and verbally, by someone who is so utterly convinced of their own entitled reality, it sticks with you. So yeah, guys, that's my story. It's a harsh reminder that entitlement isn't just annoying. It can be genuinely dangerous and deeply traumatizing, and sometimes you really do just want to grab a giant bag of chips without being assaulted. Be kind out there. You never know what someone else is going through, or what kind of ridiculous, entitled confrontation they just survived.
My heart was already thumping against my ribs before I even stepped foot inside apartment 3B. That's how I knew this wasn't just another Friday night delivery. Mac, the guy who'd ordered the pepperoni and mushroom, had an alarmed look that bordered on pure panic when he cracked open his door, whispering, "Shut up. Just get in here." "Yeah, a pizza delivery. Totally normal." I'm Jace, by the way. Just your average pizza jockey, slinging pies and soaking up stories for Reddit. Our joint makes the best damn pizza in town, and I usually love my gig. But this call? This felt off from the start. Mac on the phone, his voice jumpy like he was arguing with someone just out of earshot. I'd figured maybe a messy breakup or a drunk roommate situation. Oh, how wrong I was. Stepping inside felt like walking into a live-action thriller. The apartment was a disaster zone, empty fast food wrappers piled high, furniture askew, and shadows dancing in the dim light. And people. Like way too many people, huddled in corners, their faces obscured, their hushed whispers filling the air. It was a bizarre, unsettling tableau. I clutched the pizza box a little tighter, my professional demeanor warring with the primal urge to bolt. "Okay, man, here's your pepperoni and mushroom," I said, trying to sound calm, like this was just another Tuesday. I held out the pie, ready for the transaction, ready to get the hell out. But Mac wasn't having it. He jumped back, a wild look in his eyes. "Payment first," he hissed, his voice cracking. "I need payment first." "Dude, I just need to give you the pizza and get paid for it," I countered, confusion overriding my fear for a second. This wasn't how it worked, ever. He was practically vibrating with anxiety, his gaze darting around the room like he was expecting an ambush. "No, payment now," he screamed, completely unhinged. The whispers in the room died. Everyone was staring. My adrenaline spiked. This wasn't a messed up order. This was something else entirely. My gut screamed, "Get out, Jace! Get out now!" Just as I was about to make a break for it, convinced I was about to witness some serious domestic drama, the apartment door swung open again. Another guy, big and burly, stomped in, his eyes wide. "The pizza's here," he boomed, completely missing the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Mac's head snapped towards the new guy, his face contorting into pure rage. "Get out! Get the hell out of my face!" he shrieked, actually lunging at the new arrival. The apartment exploded into chaos. Hushed whispers turned into panicked murmurs, and I was just standing there, a hot pizza in my hands, a deer in headlights. "You know what?" I stammered, my voice barely a squeak. I'm gonna go." I practically threw the pizza box onto a cluttered table and bolted. I didn't care about the payment anymore. I just wanted out. I didn't stop running until I was back in my car, fumbling with the keys, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped them. The engine roared to life and I tore out of that parking lot like the devil himself was chasing me. My heart was pounding, my breath hitched. What the hell did I just walk into? I called my dad, then our family attorney. "Just a quick heads up," I told them, explaining the crazy situation. They both sounded concerned. The attorney told me to chill, said I hadn't done anything wrong. Easy for him to say. The next morning, the calm was shattered. The cops called. They wanted me to come down to the station. My attorney met me there, thankfully. The vibe was all wrong. These weren't friendly questions about a weird delivery. They sat me down, serious faces, and started showing me these grainy, enhanced frames from security footage. My car, me, the apartment building, and then the kicker. "Your friends," one of the officers said, leaning forward, his voice cold, "ordered that pizza to transport money." My jaw must have hit the floor. "My friends?" I practically yelled, jumping up. "What the hell are you talking about? I don't have any friends who do that. I'm just a delivery guy." They stared at me, unblinking. Accusations, insinuations? They clearly thought I was in on something big. Money laundering? Drug running? My mind raced, trying to piece together the chaos from last night with this insane accusation. Me? A criminal? I was terrified. All I'd wanted was to deliver a damn pizza. My attorney stepped in, calm and collected, reminding them I was cooperating. He spoke for me, shutting down their badgering, demanding to know what evidence they had linking me to any crime. He explained my movements, my job, my total lack of awareness. It was a stressful, suffocating hour. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they let me go, formally cleared. Apparently, the police had been watching that apartment for a while, and my delivery had just conveniently landed me right in the middle of a bust. Mac, and likely the others, were involved in something seriously shady, and my pizza had been a clumsy attempt to disguise a money transfer or exchange. My boss was just relieved I was okay when I explained. He didn't care about the lost pizza or the missing payment, and honestly, neither did I. I still get a cold shiver down my spine when I think about it. So yeah, that's my story. It's a good reminder that sometimes a normal shift can go sideways faster than you can say extra cheese, and always, always, always trust your gut. And maybe, just maybe, make sure you get paid before you walk into a potential federal investigation.
This next one might just be your new favorite.